It's my great pleasure to be introducing to you my friend Anne Daniot, also known as Anne Ray, who is a wonderful artist and photographer. She's probably best known in America for her book, Love Looks Not with the Eyes, which is photographs that she took over a number of years working with Lee Alexander McQueen. But she also has another career photographing people in the performing arts, particularly dancers and opera singers. If you have a copy of the book, you'll see that there are a number of her photographs in the book. And along the way, while working on the show, I said to her I would like some of her photographs in the show. And this was already rather late in the game, and amazingly, she put together a series of original photographs and a videotape made especially for the exhibition Dance and Fashion, focusing on the concept of metamorphosis. So I thought maybe we could start with that, dear. You can talk about this project and the ideas behind it.
Okay. Hello. The idea of Metamorphosis was really inspired by all the experiences I had the privilege to live at the Paris Opera mainly, and with many performers all over the planet. I was always deeply touched by these moments just before the artist is entering the stage. You have a physical, mental preparation, and the costume indeed has a major role for the artist to become really the character he's going to embody. So you have these double feeding things, meaning the artist feeds the costume with his soul, and the costume feeds the artist and helps him to become the character on stage. That's an iterative process, and I found that absolutely fascinating. The metamorphosis occurring when the artist enters the stage, and also when he leaves the stage and he leaves that kind of second skin. So basically the exhibition of photographs and the movie are based on this idea. I worked with two principal dancers from the Paris Opera, Jérémy Belingard and Aurélie Dupont. We know each other very well, and I had a brilliant career still going on, but a career long enough already so we could select their main costumes that have been very important for them as artists in building their history. And so we mixed and worked with all these costumes to try and say who is the artist really at the end of the day.
So let's look at the first one.
Okay. So when thinking about these dance and fashion ideas and how they mix together, I was like, okay, what do we need? We need a fashion designer, we need a ballet, which is an act of creation, and we need a performer or several in some cases. And there is really a symbiosis between the three. We'll come back on that later. But I've been lucky enough to see, for instance, Christian Lacroix working for 9 months with the artist from the Paris Opera. And it's not just the designer designing things in one place. It's really something very intimate between the artist and the designer, and it's really fascinating to observe that. And what makes the metamorphosis possible is when you have all these creative energies together. So it's true with the fashion designer and the dancer, but it's true also with the person in charge of the decor, or it's true about the musician. And the best example in the history of ballet to me is really the Ballet Russe, when you had all these energies gathering together to produce some astonishing pieces. And the beauty of this collective act of creation is that it's really ephemeral. Today we have videos and we have photos, but as you probably all know, seeing a performance on stage is really a very unique moment. It can be an instant de grâce sometimes, and it's really something very fugitive and beautiful for that reason also. So these two images are from the Ballet Russe that I just mentioned. The one on the left is part of the exhibition Metamorphosis. We didn't mix this costume with any other for the picture because Petrushka, the Russian clown, is such an emblematic figure. It would have been a sacrilege to mix it. and the one on the right is the Afternoon of a Faun. And these two are two principal dancers from Paris Opera, Jérémy Belinga and Nicolas Leriche. And it's interesting to see performing arts are art vivant.
Yes, living art.
Living arts, and it's always very deep and very new to see these artists in the 21st century reinventing these characters and the costumes. These two are so eloquent how a costume can help them to become the character.
The characters here are so distinctive, and the costumes are so closely associated with the characters.
Yes, iconic almost.
Now I want to ask if you can talk about some of your other projects, which will lead also into more about dance and costume.
Okay. When preparing this moment, I thought about this connection between fashion and dance, and what I have been experiences I could share with you today. And one which comes from far away was an experience in Japan. I used to live in Tokyo for a couple of years, and I met the National Living Treasures, who are craftsmen working on different arts, but the one I met were working on textile and were doing exquisite kimonos that could be used for performing arts, for no theater, for kabuki, and in kabuki you have some dancing moments too. So that was one very interesting experience. Some of these National Living Treasures would need 6 months or 9 months to do just one single kimono, so it's like couture in the Japanese world. So second experience, as Valérie mentioned, I spent many years with Alexander McQueen, and I have the privilege to know Sylvie Guillem. So I introduced them because both of them were very keen on working together, and Alexander McQueen created the costumes for a piece called Eo Nagata with Sylvie Guillem and Russell Maliphant and Robert Lepage. And the last experience I mentioned was for the Paris Opera. I was asked to work and follow and observe Christian Lacroix creating costumes for an entire ballet. So it was really an impressive number of costumes. The ballet is called La Source. And what was interesting, it was not a new ballet. There had been history, and the ballet was recreated. But I remember Christian Lacroix saying that he discussed with the choreographer and all the artists involved, and he started to draw from there without looking at the original drawings. And when he came back to them, they were very similar. So that was really interesting. So that's the book, the drawing book of one of the National Living Treasure I met, called Moriguchi Sensei. And which is amazing is that in this drawing book you had all the drawings of his life, of his entire life, very inspired by nature, as you can see. So we see here the master, the sensei at work. The length of the kimono is always, the dimensions are always the same, they don't vary. They are not adapted to sizes or whatever, and this is the very first drawing he is doing on the white page, I should say. And these are just to give you an idea. Sorry for the bad quality of the images I could find, but to give you an idea of the results. And these techniques giving you the pointillism.
It's like pointillism, yes.
Pointillism. That's a technique absolutely original he created, and that's why it takes 6 to 9 months to do one of these pieces, which have been worn and used on stage. Because in Japan, the difference between craft and art almost doesn't exist. They think that the art has to be in life, which is something which I really liked. And this is, I just put this image, which is a typical door, the Japanese story, because it always made me think of the entrance of a theater, actually.
Is this at Nikko?
Yeah, absolutely. That's in Nikko. So that's really the encounter. I think nobody has seen this image before, except Sylvie and Lee, and Russell Maliphant on the right. That was at the end of the performance. Sylvie and Russell were dancing together, and just after the curtain dropped, we went on stage. And so that was really the major encounter before they started to work together.
I know those of you who are ballet-mains know Sylvie Guillaume, who caused mass hysteria every time she danced in New York because she was so amazing. But those of you who were too young to have seen her here, she was a superstar beyond belief. So the idea then that you put her together with McQueen is pretty exciting in terms of sort of creative synergy.
It is exciting, but I guess that's the meaning of life. I mean, it's all about transmission. So doing things by yourself as a creative person is important, but putting people in relations, it's something really exciting as well. I think that's crucial. So this is a small movie. I don't know how you put it on.
Can you put that on for me, Tanya? We don't know how to put on the movie.
This is an extract of a movie made by Françoise Avant about Sylvie Guillaume, and these 3 minutes are really, hope we can see them, are really, well, they say it all.
No, the next picture, right?
It's
so we don't
before.
want that, yeah.
We can play it.
Avec costume, ce serait quand alors l'idéal?
Quand on se revoit, là, ce serait bien qu'on commence à travailler avec les costumes.
Décembre prochain.
Le costume en décembre.
Alexander McQueen.
And this is going to hold it up anyway. Right. The tape. Yeah. So then it frames the face.
Stretch panels.
You've got this thing at the back. I think it should be the same. It doesn't look right to me. Can I cut?
What?
H scissors. Have a move. It's better. It's more easy, you know. It feels lighter. There's not too much weight on the back now. It's quite nice. No, this way. Do you have an obi with this or no obi?
No, just do this kind of things, dropping it.
Well, I'm gonna follow this line on. There's a kimono on top of this.
Yes, a kind of dressing gown. Robert's getting made up at the table.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
It's cute.
And do you want, and we're going to have a black all-in-one underneath it.
I think it's not sinister enough. Pin this here. Just pin it to the neck, then it down. Yeah, sit in there. If you turn, that's a much nicer shape now. Do this after, let's. Sylvia, nicer shape? I try and show you. It's much more, you know, right, parallel with the... Okay, we're going to take the picture. Just hold that back.
Well, I think I don't have anything to say.
That was amazing. That was absolutely
the
astonishing.
connection between them and the way they look at each other and the respect they have. I mean, Lee, who knew what he was doing, asking Sylvie, can I cut? I think that's just lovely to watch this. So here we have the result. We've seen the costume with the lines, which is on the right, and at the back we see the sinister one, which were on stage. Yeah, so it's just a wonderful artistic collaboration between great artists.
And it's a Japanese-themed ballet, or Japanese-inflected ballet?
Basically, it mixes Japanese influences, and it's a story of a famous historical figure called Le Chevalier d'Eon.
Yes.
That's why it's called Eonagata,
Okay.
who was a famous spy and who
Of
would dress as a
course.
woman. And
The
so.
Chevalier d'Eon, of
Yeah.
course. He was the one who, he was a man, he was sent over to England to be a diplomat, he dressed as a woman. Louis XIV said,
Exactly.
make up your mind, you're a man or a woman.
And so, of course, Lee McQueen loves the subject and
Yeah.
found it over-inspiring,
Fantastic.
so it was a great collaboration. Yeah.
Now the source, La Source, that's for art people, that's the one that Degas painted, where there's the woman sitting by a pool on stage with the horse in the background.
Absolutely. So this ballet was recreated, I'm very wrong with dates, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would say. You know, Valérie?
No, I'm not sure when it was done.
2009, 2010, something like that, let's say. So all the costumes have been done from scratch, all designed by Christian Lacroix. So as I was saying, it's been 9 months of work from the day one when they started to select the fabrics and etc., work on the patrons until the premiere of the ballet. So this is a group of the nymphes, which came in various colors, some pale green, pale blue, pale purple. This is Mr. Lacroix at work, checking everything, even what seems like a simple costume that we're going to see in the next image on stage. That's this costume on the right, so it's a bit more complicated when it's finished. The elves on the left picture. Lots of Swarovski crystals were used also in the costume.
It's a very, very complicated plot, and there's so many different kinds of costumes in it. You've got
Yes.
the whole book that you worked on that's all about La Source.
Yeah, a book was published, and there were an infinity of costumes. I couldn't tell you the figures, but so many characters and groups, and seeing all these being produced in finally such a short time, that was really impressive. You have the other costumes, a bit like a romantic tutu on the left, but you had Swarovski crystals and the sleeves, everything. The one on the right, absolutely exquisite.
You recognize this one from the
I
brochure
recognize
and
this
from
one.
the book. In a way, although Lacroix subordinates himself to the requirements of the ballet, you can see why he was, of all the designers, someone who is especially talented for theatrical and ballet work, because his own fashions were so theatrical.
Absolutely, you find echoes in his own works and the works he's doing for artists, and he's been doing many collaborations with ballet and theaters. So
We were determined to get something of his for the show, and then finally we were able to get one, which was from Tarnished Angels, from Carol Armitage's ballet for Paris Opera Ballet.
Too, yeah. So I came to this idea that finally I've been lucky enough to observe couture and to observe the atelier in a theater, and they are basically same and different. I explain it. It's the same because the way it's organized and structured, it's really the same. We discussed that with Valerie. You have the tailoring, you have the flue, you have the headpieces, jewelry, shoes, exactly the same. And now when it comes to the function, as you were just saying, of the garments, it's so different. You have to think of a couture dress that could be worn on a red carpet. Basically, you will need to walk 15 meters and then maybe stand for a few moments and they sit, which is quite simple. Whereas with costumes, you need to move. We're going to see what we mean by movement, and you're going to need to do some different things. So the atelier, you're going to see it looks...
And this is the opera
Yeah,
atelier.
this
So it's
is-
remarkable. It's really like a couture atelier.
Yeah, it's at the Paris Opera. That was with Christian Lacroix, this one, and the following ones, I guess, yeah. So you see the little hands,
Yes, the little hands, the craftspeople working in the back.
craftspeople working in the back, stockman everywhere with the outfits, and the master and the main character costume. Here you see just a selection of the fabrics that was at the beginning with the drawings by Christian Lacroix. The one on the right, that's in the teinture.
A dye.
Dye, thank you. The dye atelier, which is very impressive with metallic big things where they prepare all the different dyes. There are various aspects. As you can see, the nerves being created, the details for the headpieces with more Swarovski crystals, the lace, the details at the bottom of the dress upstairs, up there. As you can tell, I hope on this image, Christian Lacroix was enjoying this moment, and all the dancers enjoyed all the fittings with him. So it was really a wonderful atmosphere. And this is an important part of this association of fashion and dance, is that all the people involved live fully the experience. And it's really a very nourishing for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoys the moment.
Well, I remember, too, when I talked to a dancer who'd worked with Karinska, and he said it was so wonderful because you would go in and she'd pay so much attention to making it, and then if you tried dancing and you said, I had a little problem with this, she would continue to adjust it till it was just right.
Yes, Christian Lacroix was like that during the fitting, saying, are you sure? Can you move your arm? Trying all kinds of movements. So very respectful. So you see the drawing and the result. One headpiece. These were collar pieces with more Swarovski orange pieces. He made some costume from original Indian sari. Mm-hmm. So a stock of sari came one day. It was full of color. That was really a feast. And, well, designer just thinking and improving. Just the fabric when it comes out, and he's gathering it, trying to give a shape. And this is really the first step of creation. This is very special. We moved to other atelier, but the atmosphere looks the same. So that was in the Atelier Couture at Givenchy in '97.
So there's McQueen. He had just started then at Givenchy.
Yeah, he's just starting. So you see the same kind of things, really, you know, the sewing and everything being built.
That was the first collection, wasn't it?
That was the first one, the very first couture collection he created, all made of white and gold. And you see the craftsmanship, the embroidery, the transparency, the color. Yeah. And again, the same atmosphere that we just saw at the Paris Opera. And and the designer working on his knees if needed. I mean, you just focus on the work. And that's a result. One dress, that's later. It must be 2004. Now I said it was different about movements, and it's also different about the distance, because the costumes, you will see them from a distance. Sometimes with photographs, and that would be another topic, you see the costumes from very close, but basically for, like here, people in your theater, you have the distance. So I just wanted to give an example. That's what you would see a bit more far away. That's Le Spectre de la Rose, another ballet russe, and that's how the costume is, full of petals and really, old-fashioned in a way, but beautiful.
Beautiful, but the audience won't see a fraction of that.
Yeah, and fitting the role, totally. Different about movements, so we have just a few. That was designed by Picasso for the ballet russe, this costume. This is Sylvie Guillem. When I talk about movement, I mean real movement, even if the costume is more simple. As you see, anything has to be possible for the artist. This is ballet by Wayne McGregor, more contemporary costumes, still movement. This is an old piece from the 60s, late 50s, called Notre-Dame de Paris, and the costumes were designed, believe it or not, by Yves Saint Laurent.
We have one in the show.
Yeah. This is a rehearsal. I wanted to show that because sometimes the costumes are are so important that they have to rehearse with the costumes. So we see that here and in the next picture, because they have to practice with that kind of costumes.
You couldn't go on the first night having never practiced with that costume.
No way. This is another image with a huge cape, and in the ballet he's supposed to do big gesture with the cape, so once again they need to practice. That's one of the... on the left it must be L'Histoire de Manon, and on the right too, so that's in the same ballet. You see she's changing hair, she has a wig for the final scene, and she goes from exquisite garments to the end when she's in prison and everything's missing. Very different, but always movement. And that's movement too. Marie-Agnès Gillot, who is principal dancer at Paris Opera. And if there is movement, there is stillness too, and it seems simple, but it means that if they have to stay still for sometimes 10 or 15 minutes, so the garments must be not too heavy, they must not sweat too much in it. There are lots of constraints typical to the performance. So that's another one.
This is in the show, yeah.
Yeah, from the exhibition. That's from Près le Jocage, from Le Parc. And that's from Swan Lake, obviously. And that's another thing which is different when you design costumes for artists. That's from La Dame aux Camélias. I think I was saying to you, Valérie, she was wearing something like 13 different outfits in one ballet. So she had to change very quickly, and the costumes were quite complicated, but it meant that they need to open and close very quickly. And
quick Velcro changes.
Yeah, exactly. Another difference also is that when you design usually a couture dress, you design just one piece of it for one specific person, whereas in a ballet, that's one like again, but there are many groups in many ballets, and so you need to design 20 or 30 or 40 different outfits, as difficult as they are to be made.
And we heard Wendy Whalen say that can create a sense of a group identity when everyone's wearing the same thing.
Yeah. For here, instance, here in Le Parc again, you had 7 or 8 of these dresses, so it's a bit of work. And this from, that's Yves Saint Laurent costumes again, from Notre Dame de Paris, inspired actually by the stained glass
windows.
Thank you. Stained glass windows from the cathedral.
That's our dress that we have in the show,
Yeah.
Yves Saint Laurent.
And that's the main role, the main character of Esmeralda in Saint Laurent. And that was done in 1957. And that was just to make you smile, because the dancer on the left, she's French from Paris Opera, Laetitia Pujol, and on the right, she was a Russian artist, Uliana Lopatkina, wonderful artist, invited, and basically they performed exactly the same role on the same stage, the same choreography. But you understand, seeing that the costume is very personal. So the Russian artist came with her own tutu, which is so different. I mean, the décolleté, the feathers, the headpiece, everything is different. So it gives you, to come back to this metamorphosis idea, it gives you an idea of the very strong link that the artist has with the costume.
Which can cause problems with costume designers when the
Yes.
star comes in with her own costume.
Absolutely. And this is just another version of the tutu that can be done in so many different pieces. That's from Mademoiselle Julie from Matt's Egg. The performers, what I was saying as I started is that when you observe the preparation of the artist, the costume is really the final step. You had the rehearsals during 4 or 5 weeks in Paris. I guess it's the same here at New York City Ballet and many companies. And then the day of the performance, you have what I've seen. You have the food around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then you have the naps, so you prepare the body, feed the body, you rest the body. Then you have the mental preparation. And then the final step is going into this second skin, which is a costume. And then they warm up the body again. And they are going on stage. So that's rehearsal. Rehearsal again. Rehearsals, that's Sylvie Guillem again. That's concentration, preparation. The same, that's in the exhibition here too. And then the costume, which is usually a very silent moment. Most of the great artists have their dresser that they quite often know for years. So it's a lot of trust, and they know very well each other, and the dresser can help the person to become the character of the performance. And it's very careful, it's very tender, it's very gentle, and you feel it's very intimate, so you feel privileged, and you try to be tiny when you observe that, because it's almost a sacred moment, really, like that kind of moment. And then entering and leaving the stage, as we were saying, this is art vivant, live art?
Living art.
Living art, thank you. So that's just before going on stage, just entering the stage. That's a bit of everything for a very classical piece called La Sylphide, where you find the kilt and the romantic tutu going out of the stage, and then the performance is over. That's another costume by Riccardo Tischi from Givenchy.
We have that one in the show,
you
too.
have it in the show, too. That's Wayne McGregor again. That's from Trisha Brown.
Those are beautiful costumes. That woman's costume.
Yeah. That's a piece by Yeri Kilian. And that's Riccardo Tischi, and she's wearing the costume from Siddhartha by Preljocage.
So you've mixed the two ballet
Yeah.
costumes here.
Yeah,
Nice.
I did.
You're playing with that.
I played with them. And finally, at the end of the day, you may think we have garments in life and we have costumes in the theaters and we have roles, but maybe when we get dressed, we all play roles too. So this idea of metamorphosis is true on the stage, but it's true, I guess, as well in life. So this is going out of the stage. That's Sylvie Guillem, actually. And that's just the final bow. Leaving the stage is not always an easy step. And I wanted to finish with, and I'm coming back on this Siddhartha costume. It's very impressive because it has been made with a fabric which is very, very light.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it's 5 grams per square meter, which is almost nothing.
To go through a ring, that's amazing.
That's amazing. It means that when she was making a movement, it takes time, so it creates like bubbles or waves around her. So I photographed the poster we've just seen 4 years ago, then the performance, and then for this work, for here, for the FIT, I wanted to use this costume again. I've been obsessed by it for 4 years, so we could play with it properly.
Thank you, Anne. This is really beautiful. What a poetic sequence. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have time for just a 1 or 2 questions. If you've got one, please come down to one of the microphones.
Brigitte Lefebvre, Brigitte Lefebvre, who's been the director for, I believe, 17 years. Is it all her vision at the Paris Opera Ballet to commission designers, or had the principal dancers also have a say in who to bring in? I know that Isabel Sierravola, who just retired in February, is a muse to some fashion designers in Paris. But did she also have an artistic input, or was it all Brigitte?
Brigitte could answer better than me, but my feeling after a decade in the house is that it's really a common will. I mean, Brigitte is in contact with her dancers, because she's going to finish in 1 week, in contact with the dancer every day, and everything was always discussions. So it was not just Brigitte Lefebvre in an office saying, I'm going to ask Christian Lacroix to come and design. Christian has been working in the house, all the dancers had a wonderful relationship with him, so all was making sense. So I guess all the choices have been, the decisions taken by Brigitte Lefebvre were almost common decisions, and everybody approved them. And for many ballets, actually, the choreographer are associated with some costume designers, so it's not the decision of the director of ballet.
Another question? One more, okay.
When you take pictures like this, do you feel the designer, the dancer, or the photographer has more creative control over the image?
I hope it's a mix. I can't separate the choreographer and the dancer because they work so closely. When you've seen them working during rehearsals, it's so connected. It's very intense. So when I photograph a dancer performing a choreography, it's really a piece in itself. It's a story or not. In the case of some modern pieces, or it's an emotion, or it's an energy. It's really a moment that you capture. And I don't think of the dancer, and I don't think of the choreographer. I just think of something that I'm trying to catch, to transmit it through photography afterwards.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you very much.